everybody. I have been having some issues with holding the camera myself, so I'm going back to my tripod. I'm just going to really quickly run through everything on the supply list. Again, you can get the supply list itself that you can print out, or you can just copy and paste if you sign up for my newsletter on my site, alicearling.com. Sign up for the newsletter, and it will send you the link to the supply list. So the first item are the paints. I like the Liquitex heavy body paints. They're the golden fluid acrylics are also good ones to use. But I prefer the thicker ones. That's just what I got started using, so I'm used to them. The colors that I recommend are ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, which is the red, transparent raw sienna, which is the yellow that I use, and then in a much smaller amount, the burnt umber, which is brown, because it's kind of difficult to mix, or at least I find that it is. So the other color, no, that's my turquoise. I'm packing up, so which kind of got me thinking about this, to go and paint live tomorrow and Sunday at a church. So this is transparent Viridian, which I also prefer to have my own green. Hooker's green is another one that you can also use. So the thing that you want to look for is that you want the paints as much as possible, and I'm looking for it here, to say transparent. So if you can, I'm not sure if you can see that on the camera. So, but they say transparent on some of them, and I don't have a jar of the golden acrylics out. They'll have different indications. The Liquitex also makes a basic kind of student grade, and it seems to work out just fine. It's not quite as transparent. You can see on the back is where it says it's transparent and it's half filled in. So, but these work well. And then Masters also makes kind of a general student grade acrylic that works pretty well. So you want your basic primaries, a red, yellow, and a blue, and then a brown and a green. For most of the things that I do, those are the colors that I like. You can also obviously add in, choose whichever other colors that you like. Sometimes I'll do a turquoise or a purple that I'll add in, and that type of thing. So, but to just start out with, you just need a very simple palette. So the second item is gesso, and this is, I think, some that I got at Walmart years ago. I like the container because it just has a flip top lid and it's not huge. So you need some white gesso. I'm not picky about the brand. I typically buy it by the gallon from Cheap Joe's. So and then you also want some black gesso. That's the black that I use. It's a nice consistency, which I don't use very much, black gesso, so I'm not particularly fond of black, so you might prefer to use more black than I do, and this is the black that I recommend. You'll notice that I've sealed off the lid with plastic. Sometimes what happens, and I've done this for my gel medium also, sometimes what happens is that your paint or whatever will build up on the threads and then it will stick. So by having the plastic, you can then unscrew the lid easily and then peel off the plastic if you need to. So since I've got the medium, we'll talk about that next. I recommend matte medium, which is a fluid medium, not as opposed to a thicker one. You can kind of hear it sloshing around. It's about the consistency of very heavy cream. So we'll be diluting that. This is what I use for my glue. Medium is the binder that holds, paints are basically a binder and then pigment. So this is the same binder that's in my paints. The brand does not matter, again, here, but it's just that it's the acrylic medium and I'm using acrylic paints. So then I know that they're going to be perfectly compatible whenever I glue anything down with the paints that I'm using as well. So you'll want some matte medium. You could try and use just regular PVA glue or whatever. I have not tried that, so I don't know how that would work. So, but you're certainly free to try all of what I do with just whatever you've got on hand. That will be fine. And then you can kind of add things as you experiment if you decide that this is something that you enjoy doing. So, I also use a heavy gel medium. I didn't put that in the supply list other than on the maybe if you'd like to. If I'm gluing down keys or other kind of larger bulky items, then I use the heavy gel medium for that. So, so that might be something that you might consider if you plan on doing a lot of heavy embellishment on your piece. So that was, the acrylic medium was 3. Brushes are 4. So pretty much I'm only recommending that you get a few brushes. I of course have quite a few, but you can just definitely use the student grade brushes. You'll want a wide flat bristle brush like this one. And then I really like the angled bristle brushes for the majority of my painting. Just like if you're cutting in with your trim, they work really well. I like the acrylic handled ones because I have a tendency of leaving them in my bucket of water and wandering off and forgetting to come back for a couple of days. I do not recommend that. I'm just telling you that's how I roll. So because they do, you'll notice that these bristles are kind of starting to come apart. So that's very hard on your brushes to do that, which is why I tend to grab the student brushes. I have a couple of nice quality brushes and I do love them, but I'm just kind of too hazardous to use them. So, and then also you'd want just like a round brush or two. So just a few brushes, just get the student sets that you can get at any craft store. So, and again, and you can see here, when I leave it in the wood handled ones, when I leave them in my bucket of water for a long time, the wood soaks up the water and it swells, which is what wood does, and then it splits the paint or the sealer, whatever that stuff is, that's on the outside, and then it starts to flake off. So it just looks terrible. I don't know, it's still functional and usable, clearly, because I'm still using them. So those are brushes. A water bucket, I like to have something that's fairly tall. You can see that my brushes fit in there, but I can still easily grab them. And then, but that has a nice wide open mouth. I like something fairly large just because then I don't have to change the water as frequently. So it's the water bucket. That would be number 5. I do also have a flat one that kind of like a Rubbermaid one that I can toss my stamps in so I can clean them later. You want at least 1 spray bottle, if not 2. I use 2. I prefer the kind with the adjustable nozzle, because then you can adjust it from a fine mist to droplets or whatever. So I have a couple of smaller ones that I use when I'm traveling because I don't want the ginormous ones. So you'll want the second one. The first one is for water, and the second one is for rubbing alcohol. So, which does some cool effects. You don't use a ton of it, but it is kind of fun to use. So I have that one. So number 7 is a surface to paint on. The 2 surfaces that I use are watercolor paper. So, and this is a half a sheet of watercolor paper. It's 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. This is 300 pounds, and I believe it's hot press. So I acquired it quite some time ago, so I don't remember exactly even the maker. The maker's mark is evidently on the other half. So, but anyway, I can show you how to maintain the decal edge. So when you tear the paper as opposed to cutting it, so then you can maintain that nice decal edge if you prefer. So it also, you can get watercolor as a block, which this is, and what that means is that it's like a pad of paper is sealed on one edge, so you can flip it. This is sealed on all 4 edges, so it holds the paper tight, and then it tends not to buckle as much. And then there's kind of a slight opening here that when you're done you can peel it off. So that's kind of a nice option for you if you'd like to work with paper. The other option, and this one I've done some stuff on top of it. It doesn't normally start out looking like, it's just a hardboard panel. So this is the way it is just naturally. And then I've gessoed this one. So, so those are the two types of surfaces that I like to work on. And I've not used this technique on canvas, so I'm not recommending that, but you are certainly free to give it a try if you prefer. And then, oh, sandpaper. So if you're going to be, although sandpaper does do some cool things that we might play with in the class as well. So if you're going to be preparing your own board, then you're going to want some sandpaper. So I recommend 60 grit as well as 220. The 60 grit is going to be to smooth off the sides of your board, and then the 220 bit or grit is to smooth some of the roughness of the gesso. If you get it, it can kind of get globby and have more texture in it than you might prefer. So the 220 would be to help smooth out the surface of the gesso if you prefer. So, and I'll go through all of that in the class as far as how to do it and all that kind of thing. So so that would be number 8. Number 9 is plastic sheeting. This is the polyethylene sheeting that they sell for paint drop cloths. And this actually I think I purchased for a paint drop cloth when I was painting my house earlier this year, or last year now I guess. So what I do, and you can probably see it slightly, is that I spread it out over my entire surface. The surface of my table is actually a dark brown, so I've placed a couple of sheets of tissue paper under where I work. And then this is where my palette is. So that both protects your surface, but then also after a while the layers kind of dry and then they build up. And I did this in an earlier one. I got excited and I peeled them all off. So after the layers of paint build up, then you can peel them off, and then you can use these. This is just pure dried acrylic paint. So then you can use those as little bits of collage in your pieces if you'd like. So that's kind of an added benefit of using the polyethylene as opposed to like the tablecloth vinyl that you can get. So, but obviously, and since this is my studio table and that's all it's used for, so I go ahead and tape it down so it doesn't move around on me. But you don't have to do that if you're working on your kitchen table or whatever. Okay, so number 10, a couple of, where did it go? Here it is. So I purchased some of these because I used to teach classes, so then I had them for all my students. But these are just kind of the little cups that salsa or salad dressing comes in, so you can, when you get takeout, so you can just save a couple of those. This is some of the matte medium that I mentioned earlier, and it's been pre-diluted, or I diluted it, and so I can put the lid on it, and this has been good for several days now, and it's still liquidy. So that's a way of just conserving on your supplies. So those, or in any other kind of small sealable container would be fine. Those are just fairly easy to come by. So number 11, so other items that you might want to do, so various collage materials. So I have, this is a Bible in Arabic, I think, or a chunk out of it now, but this is a book in Italian, maps, music. I really like, here's some old sheet music. So this is part of a map that I printed off of Rome, I think, when I traveled there. So, and really pretty much anything that you might like to have. Lighter papers definitely work better. As far as in the layering process, the thicker papers will work, but the lighter ones are easier. And then I like to use various stamps. So here are some. This is some heat moldable foam of one that I made. And actually, here it is. So I carved this stamp, and this is out of insulation foam. So I carved it, and then this is actually that rubber mat stuff. And there's several different types of foam that you can purchase readily that, so hopefully you can see the detail, but then, so you just heat up the surface and then you press it onto whatever you'd like, and then you have a stamp that's the reverse of this one, or whatever it is that you want to do. I've done, you know, cool cut glass dishes or whatever. So here's another, this is a stamp that I've made out of mat board that I cut. So there's this one that's with a fun foam. And then I'm not sure where the one went. And then this is a cool stamp that I was given in a class. It's for ammunition somehow, so I'm not quite sure how that works, but it's a cool grid circle design. So look for, you know, kind of things that are that could be used as stamps. So these are sea sponges. They work really great, especially for foliage or that type of thing. A little bit of bubble wrap. It does a really nice, cool stamping effect. So all of those types of things are great. I'm trying to think, what else did I mention? Oh, the one thing here that I'm using kind of as my thing. So if you get, and obviously you could get a smaller box, it's not very expensive. This is dry wax paper or all-purpose food wrap. And I couldn't find my other box of it, but sometimes it's sold folded in half. So, but it's generally in the food service section of your store. So, and I use that because I'm not storing my paint. I'm using my paint here. Then I will use this, well, to do a lot of things really. But as far as the beginner class, I use it to, I don't know if that's dark enough, but I took my brayer, which is something that you also might like, is a brayer. Although, like an old credit card or one of those gift cards, I'm not finding one of those either. They'll work really well to kind of squeegee your collage materials down onto your board so that they're well adhered. Oh, here we go. Here's a chunk of a former insurance card. So, from a former place of employment. But you can, so I just brayered up the excess paint and I brayered it on here, and then it's real thin like tissue paper, which you can also use for the same purpose. So I've got just some white tissue paper here as well, and then you can use this as now your collage material. So, so that's something that is highly optional. You can also do the same thing on top of old newspapers or whatever. So I don't like to waste paint. So I come up with other ways of using it. So, okay, oh yes, also definitely want paper towels as well as baby wipes. So baby wipes work the best as far as cleaning off your hands. Y'all might not be as messy as I am, but I tend to get stuff all over. So, so those are basically the supplies that I'll be using in the class. So I can't think of anything else. I'm looking around at my table and I'm not seeing anything else in particular that I'll be using in this class. So, so anyways, I hope this all made sense and I wasn't talking too fast. I was trying to cram it all into one. So, so anyways, you can definitely find me on Facebook and ask any questions that you might have or whatever. So hope y'all are having a great day. Bye-bye.